Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today. Hi, Abby.
Hi.
Welcome to Finding the Magic podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
And it sounds like you may be from Europe. Is that correct?
No, I'm from
No?
New England, which is
New
close enough,
England.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a cold, so that might be giving me more stressing the New England accent a little bit.
That's what I was hearing then. I'm from the South, so I pick up those fairly easily. Well, today we have Abby Goldsmith on. She is a science fiction adventure writer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have a 6-book series coming out with Podium. Started as a web serial, and it's a pretty big series. The basic premise, it's hard to describe. It's galactic war. There are mutant super geniuses, bioengineered superpowered people, and a hive mind with individual personalities, and they are all kind of vying for supremacy over the galaxy.
Yeah, that is kind of hard to explain. And are there humans at all, or are the humans just gone?
Yeah, no, it's actually modern day Earth is a backwater. Earth is kind of like a gorilla preserve, sort of, where the main rulers of the galaxy, the Torth, are human related. Humans are primitive ancestors, and they've been seeded through several planets. But they kind of keep Earth as like a natural preserve. But lately they've been, because of our internet, it's starting to like there's signs that the internet could become a problem competitive with their megacosm, which is like their super crazy internet. So there's several Torth voting to get rid of Earth, basically, or enslave
Okay.
Earth. Yeah.
And set up the main characters and the plot of the first book is called Majority, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Set up the main characters and the plot of that one initially, and then we'll move on to the one that's coming out very soon.
Yeah. The main one sets up one of the main characters is Thomas. He's a mutant super genius. He grew up on Earth, did not know anything about his Torth ancestry, or his Torth heritage, or whatever you want to call it. And so him and 5 other his foster siblings and people he knew are abducted by the Torth. And he's kind of inducted into this society. His friends are all enslaved. Now they're just thrown into an alien slave ghetto. And Thomas himself is kind of given like a lot of privilege. So they're like, all right, well, you're one of us. He has a mentor, another mutant super genius named the Upward Governess. And she has decided that she wants to mentor him. He's her number one pupil, basically. So, however, it's a culture where there's no secrets. Everyone's mind is read. Everyone's mind is an open book. So if he wants to save his friends, he can't do it consciously. He can't be thinking about saving them, any of that. Like, he has to just pretend to go along with everything. And it's a
That would be
popularity.
super hard because I mean, how do you control your thoughts, right? This is a major conundrum here.
Right. It's not hard. It's not easy. So, right, and everyone is in his mind. There's an audience, and it's a popularity contest, so you can kind of sway the majority. His mentor has a huge audience. She's got like trillions of followers, so she's very good at kind of playing to the crowd, and he just isn't. And so so he's kind of trying to like figure out ways to save his friends without consciously thinking about it. He gets like maybe a minute before sleep and a minute after waking up where he can have a little bit of privacy in his own mind. And he just is desperately trying to figure out a way. And meanwhile, his friends are making friends with alien slaves and also trying to figure out a way to escape and exploring some of the powers that have been repressed. The Torth also kind of have one of these main characters on a drug that inhibits his powers. And so so he's a gladiator in an alien kind of arena. And look, I just like lots of fighting between aliens. I can't help myself.
No, it sounds hugely fun. I'm like ready to like one click right now.
Thank you.
You had me at Galactic Warfare. Well, and I'm thinking back, so, back in the day, I used to be sort of a Twilight fan. So I'm thinking back to, what was the, I'm blanking on the names, but one of the vampires had the fat powers that she could read thoughts. So her enemy was like trying to let someone else decide for them what was going to happen. So they weren't making the decision because she was being watched. So I'm kind of liking this to that situation where he may figure out somebody else that can help him. But I guess everybody's thoughts are known, so that may be impossible too. Anyway, I guess we have to read your book to see how he gets around the situation and saves his friends, right?
Yes.
And tell me about the title. Why did you name it Majority? Or is that evident, or would that give something away to reading the book?
I don't think it gives anything really away. I think it's evident. It's like the majority rules in the Torth Empire. Everyone votes on everything. So it's kind of like rule by mob.
I was going to say extreme democracy, right? Which is what democracy is in its simplest definition form, right? So, but like, do I have to get voted on to use the restroom, or can I do that by myself? Or maybe they don't need
to. You don't have to. However, you don't get privacy in the restroom. Yeah, but honestly, like, so everyone has an audience in their head. They have orbiters, and if you're doing something like pooping or something, your orbiters are most likely they're going to go somewhere else. But you can't go against the majority. Like, if you do something that defies the majority, if the majority all voted and 50% or more of them voted to want something, and you actively try to stop them from getting that thing, then they will vote to have you killed.
Okay.
And all of your neighbors will just shoot you.
The stakes are high here, so yes, I see that. Don't go against the majority. Lessons learned.
Right. Yeah.
So I think you have your book with you. Hold up your book for us so we can see.
Oh, sure.
Wow, it looks pretty thick. Show me the size.
Yeah, it's thick. So apologies to anyone that doesn't like thick books. I like the thick books. I read a lot of series.
I think most readers, sometimes I like short books, sometimes I like long books, but more is always better to me. So tell me how this web series started.
Well, I had honestly written a big chunk of the series, maybe half of it, when I started serializing it online. And I was like, look, I'm like, so I was originally aiming for Big 5 publication, like many people, I'm sure. And so they're not necessarily looking for series or epic or heroic. That just isn't really the vibe right now, I think. And so I was like, all right, let me try serializing. I started on Wattpad because it was one of the biggest platforms for serialization. And I was like, well, let's just see. And I started to get a really great audience on there. So that was a lot of fun. And I kind of more recently, about a year ago, I decided to relaunch it all on Royal Road. Royal Road is kind of a more sci-fi, fantasy, male-oriented kind of platform, whereas Wattpad tends to be more female and more romance and more like young adult. So I was like, look, mine just fits better with Royal Road, the Royal Road audience. So yeah, I wanted to see how it would do there, and it did really great. I have like about 2,000 followers on there, and I got an offer from Podium at that point. So,
fun. That's so exciting. Well, congratulations. Yeah, I haven't heard of Royal Road, so that's new to me. So thank you for sharing that. And so is what you published the same thing that was in the series online, or did you put more in your published book?
No, it's the same thing. I did combine, the reason this is so thick is I combined the first two books for the publication. It just flowed better. I had originally split them just because everyone's like, you can't have a book that thick. And I just left it that way for a long time, but the split never really worked well. So
You're going all in if you're reading this one.
yes. Yep.
So tell me more about the arc of the series. So book 2 is coming out January 2nd. What is the name of that book and where are we headed next?
Yeah, Colossus Rising. So I don't want to give too many spoilers there. But basically I'd say book 1 is about them escaping and just kind of trying to survive and escape the Torth. Book 2, they are starting to get a little more actively being able to work against the Torth. They're not quite at Galactic War level yet, but by book 3 they are, So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, they meet some new allies in book 2 and 3, and yeah, they have a lot more power at their disposal.
Right. So I'm guessing his friends aren't the Torth. Am I pronouncing that
Right.
correctly? So they don't have the problem where they have to follow the majority and everybody can know their thoughts, right? So
and he severs himself. The main character Thomas. By the end of book 1, he severs himself. Well, that's a spoiler, but I mean, look, I think it's kind of obvious. Like it's sort of like Game of Thrones. You win or you die. I mean, like you sever yourself from the majority or you go along with whatever they want. Like you don't have a choice. So yeah.
So going rogue, fun. I love it. And you said you already have all 6 books planned out. Is it already all online or now you're like going beyond what you did online?
Yeah, well, I have advanced chapters on Patreon. However, that's going to be coming to an end pretty soon because I've been posting chapters daily for over a year. So that adds up to a lot of chapters, and this whole series has like 500 or so chapters. So anyway, it's coming to an end probably in about 12 weeks. Yep.
So all 6 books are written. Now you're just going to publish them for the wider audience.
Right, exactly.
Fun. Wow, that is a lot of writing. So how many years have you been doing this?
An embarrassing number of years.
That's about all of us, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to really admit like how many years. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it's been too long. But I will say like part of it is like, aiming for big 5 and all that. Like some of that can really slow you down. So yeah.
That is the process. And did you always love writing, or were you trained in writing? Did you go to school for that, or what is your background?
Oh yeah. So I've always been a storyteller, always been a heavy reader, even as a little kid. I wrote a bunch of novels when I was like before 12.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom tried to get them published for me. She like sent them to Random House and all this, and they sent a scathing rejection letter because I thought it was by an adult who was like missing a few marbles. So
This is my 12-year-old
right?
prodigy daughter.
Yeah. So at that point, I was like, oh, I can't be a writer because the Random House editor said so. So I'm gonna go into film instead. So so I went to CalArts for film, and I wanted to work for Disney or Pixar. The year I graduated, Disney laid off their entire team. So so I went into video games instead.
Ooh.
Yeah, but it's been a journey. I had some student films that won awards. They were in like the Odyssey International Film Festival and things like that. And I think it's honestly because they had good stories. I'm an okay animator. I'm pretty decent with art and animation. This is actually something I drew, but I wouldn't say I'm like a prodigy animator, like I'm not like a genius animator or something. So anyway, like having a good story in the film I think helped a lot.
Very cool. That's very exciting. So like I can write, but I can't draw at all. Like my cover designer, I'll try to sketch out what I want. She's like, just stop. She's like, don't even do it. It's gonna hurt my eyes.
Oh.
and I mean, it's been like 15 years I've been trying to get better and I can't. So
anyway.
Yeah.
I
cool.
think it's
like
like
both of those talents.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, I think being able to visualize things clearly can help as a writer as well. So
I can see them in my head. I just can't put them on paper.
Oh, no.
Very cool. So, what inspired you to have this sci-fi galactic war theme?
Um, I mean, I just always liked high stakes, and I like heroes, like big, larger than life heroes, basically. Like I'm a big fan of Wheel of Time, Game of Thrones, and all those. And so, yeah, like I wanted basically my characters are like the smartest person in the universe teaming up with the most powerful person in the universe. Um, they don't start out that way, but it's obvious that's where they're heading. So, um, yeah, so you can't really do that too easily, and I think other genres. And also, of course, sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, to me, that's like you can kind of explore social issues or things like that through an exaggerated lens. You can just take something and exaggerate it to some ridiculous point and then examine it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a very cool aspect. It sounds like about what you're doing. I mean, it's AI to the ninth. It's public majority to the ninth. It's social media pressure to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
what's
like
that?
Twitter mobs, but like way worse.
Yeah, fun. And so would you categorize this as hard sci-fi, or is it more like sci-fi fantasy light?
People will argue about those kind of definitions, and I try to stay out of the arguments. It's in the hard sci-fi subcategory on Amazon. My publisher put it there. And looking at other books there, I think it fits. And personally, I do consider it somewhat hard sci-fi. However, I think a lot of like sticklers for hard sci-fi will say no, it's not. Um, it's not like super crazy technical. It's more like the social aspect, exploration of social sci-fi.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I would tell you my definition of hard sci-fi now. Like The Martian, and maybe it's wrong. It's probably my own created definition. So like The Martian to me is more like, and maybe it's more technical because it has all those paragraphs and pages that are about like the wiring and how he sets up his living conditions and how he survives. And I will just skim through those chapters or those passages. I'm like, okay, I get the technology. I'll just skim them and get me to the storyline. Whereas like my engineer husband is completely opposite. He'll like, okay, get me out of the storyline stuff. Just give me like the technical part. So I guess that's what I meant by hard sci-fi, which is may or
It's
not
not super technical. It's not like that, no. Yeah. I'm trying to think
right.
if it has any parts even like that. I don't think it does. It does have a hard magic system,
Okay.
where the superpowers are clearly defined. So there's no like wishy-washy, oh, like magic, anything goes. It's not like that. They have very specific limitations and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're aliens. They develop these powers, I guess, or they're like
They're bioengineered, and they're kind of,
bioengineered.
and
Okay.
I don't want to give a big spoiler, but yeah, it's kind of baked in. Um, the telepathy itself is sort of like range of 4 yards. Um, it wavers a little bit if you're tired or hungry or that sort of thing. And they it's all receiving, not sending. They don't just telepathically talk into other people's minds. There is a higher level where you can twist minds, where you are actually, mind control. That's illegal. And but obviously that's going to start happening in the series at a certain point. Um, they
Bad
call
guys. Hashtag
yeah,
bad guys.
or good guys. It can be
Oh,
either
maybe.
one. So yeah, yeah, I've been calling that zombification because like if you go full twisting of a mind, there's no recovery. It's massive brain damage.
Oh,
And yeah, at that point they just become your living zombie minions until they die. So yep.
that's kind of scary. Please don't make that happen to me.
Nobody wants that to happen to them.
And so, do you have a science or technical background, or this is just fictitious figments of your imagination?
Okay, so I did consult with some astrophysicists and that sort of thing. I kind of had to because I have these mutant super geniuses. And later in the series, one of them wants to destroy the universe. And so I was like, all right, how would you logistically go about destroying the universe? Just what exactly would she need? She has billions and trillions of minions at her service, robots, she's got everything. So like what if you have all that, how would you destroy the universe?
Huh.
Um Yeah, not easy. It really
No,
isn't.
yeah.
It isn't. Um, so yeah, there's I did consult with some. I come from a family of scientists. My dad is a biophysicist, and yeah, so like I don't know, my husband's a computer scientist as well. So I would say I've had consultants at my disposal. I have a little bit of a scientific mind, but I am not a scientist myself. I'm obviously an artist writer.
You can be both. It happens. Very cool. Yeah, I'm like, okay, how do you implode the whole universe? Yeah, and then you would see yourself would cease to exist. So that's a problem also.
Yeah, and yeah, not only do I have to figure out how a mutant super genius is going to destroy the universe, but how are you going to stop her?
Hmm.
So that was not easy. Not easy. I mean, I spent a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure that one out.
And those answers usually come to me at the weirdest times when I'm not even like, and on deadlines for some reason. I don't know. My mind is like overworking because it's stressed, and then it's just like, oh, here's the answer. I don't. Do yours come that way, or how do your little eureka moments come?
Um, Sometimes like that. I do a lot of daydreaming. For the Torth series, I that's really how it's like I'm never really a pantser or an outliner. I just go for walks and I daydream it until it clicks, until it starts to really work. And I'm like, okay, that's how the scene should go down. Um, yep, and working out on paper sometimes helps. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're very similar in that, I guess, because I'll do like just scribble things on like a huge plot structure page, and then put all my ideas together, and usually have to blend them up and at some point and move them around, but that seems to work. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if someone were to ask you, well, I'm going to ask you, I'll go ahead and say that. What do you want someone to take away from your book? Like, what is one, do you have like a running theme throughout the series or throughout each book, or what do you want them to experience when they pick up and read your book?
Yeah, I mean, I have several running themes. Like one is a big exploration of like what it means to be enslaved or free. Um, and obviously that sounds simple on the surface, but then you have people going, I'm a wage slave, that sort of thing. So there's different levels of like just how free are you and in what circumstance. And yeah, the other thing is like kind of it's okay to go against the majority. Sometimes the majority is wrong.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
Very cool. So a little bit of like, I don't know what was the word that left me, but the guy didn't realize he was going to have to be a hero. He gets flung into this new world with his new heredity that he never knew existed, and then he's he becomes the hero, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit of a dark hero or like a hero that's not an obvious one. The other guy, the big gladiator guy, he has got like the chosen one heroic kind of role where an ancient oracle set him on this path and all that. Um, but he's not the real hero of the story. It's sort of like Sam and Frodo in Lord of the Rings. Like yeah, the chosen one guy is the one that everyone kind of worships and thinks is like the chosen one. Um, but even by the end of the series, he kind of realizes no, he's kind of he's going along a path, but the one who's really directing the actions is the mutant super genius, and it's Thomas.
Oh,
So
neat. Very
yeah,
cool. And so how is this written? Is this third person point of view, or is this omniscient? What
it's
point of
third
view?
person. It's
Third
third
person.
person. It's multi point of view.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say like I mean Thomas and Aryak being the gladiator guy, they each get maybe like 30 or 40% screen time point of view. They're dual protagonists.
Okay.
In book one, Thomas gets a lot more than Aryak. But yeah, anyway, overall throughout the whole series, I'd say they get like kind of a split. And then I've got some other point of views. I get some Torth bad guy point of views as well. Yeah.
Well, that's always fun. Yeah, to kind of get the
Yes.
other side of what's going on in their minds, right?
I do like to come up with crazy villains.
So are your bad guys for the sake of being bad guys, or do they
No.
have some qualities that, you might be able to empathize with, maybe.
Oh, I get great reader reactions on them. Yeah, like it all depends on the lens you look at it through. Like some of them are very sympathetic, I think, and they're just it's just the way they were raised, or the way they see the world. And too bad they're horribly wrong.
From whose perspective, though, right?
Not from their own perspective. Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
obviously.
yeah. I have one that goes renegade and switches sides, but it doesn't work out well for for anyway, I mean for obvious reasons. But
Yeah, if you go against the majority, you die, right?
Right. It's very, very dangerous to go against the majority.
Well, and did he start out wanting to go against the majority, or is it something he like decided on part way?
Which one, my main character or the villain?
No, the villain that switches sides.
Oh, yeah. There's signs, I'd say, even in book one, that she might go renegade. And I think a lot of Torth kind of question her. She has a lot of fans. She's got orbiters. They all think she's great, but there's always a few that are like, you're a little suspicious, aren't you? And she's really good at just kind of like, nah, I'm totally cool. But yeah, I think the signs are there.
Have you ever written a character or developed a character that surprised you? Like you thought it was totally going one way, or maybe even a plot line, and then like through your daydreaming, they just switched and became something completely different or went off rogue by themselves.
Oh, that's probably happened with a number of these characters. Yeah. I've had fun. Mostly they stick to the script, but in some cases I'd say like I kind of regret the script. I have I'd say like one of the things is I've got a love interest going on with Thomas, and I'm in my head when I first started daydreaming this, I was like, oh yeah, they have a great relationship and they split up and then she dates a bad boy and then they get together in the end and it's all great. But it got dragged out too long, 6 books. So I've had readers that are just like full on, she should die. Why isn't she back together with him yet? Come on. And I'm like, oh my God, calm down.
Not a romance story.
I don't write romance. I just don't. So it's kind of like I think I fumbled a little bit with the romance.
You have to save the world first, though. If you can't save the world, the romance is not going to be there anyway.
That's right.
Fun. Well, I love learning about Majority as well as Colossus Rising that comes out January 2nd. Tell us where we can find you and your book.
Yep. Abby Goldsmith, ABBY GOLDSMITH, and pretty easy to find on most social media. I've got my own website, Amazon, Audible. Yeah.
Well, super fun, and congratulations on being published in the second release coming out January 2nd. I'm sure everybody's going to be running over and one-clicking. I know I'm going to check it out, so I hope all the listeners will too.
Thanks
for being on the show. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.